Animal Farm by George Orwell is a novel focusing on the events leading up to the 1917 Russian Revolution. The allegory recounts how the oppressed animals rise to overthrow their master and establish a communist society. However, due to the greed and selfishness of humans, it is not successful. The novel was published following World War II in the year of 1945.
The novel Animal Farm is set on an English farm. The farm is initially run by a man called Mr. Jones, but he is quickly overthrown by the animals. The novel takes us through the journey of the animals, from the beginning of the rebellion, when Old Major first gave his speech of hope and equality, to the ending, where the shift in power has resulted in the pigs acting as humans. The hostility between Snowball and Napoleon was a significant event, and the victory of Napoleon had an impact on the remainder of the novel. The eviction of Snowball had caused the previous tenseness to turn to violence and supremacy of the pigs as a whole. The novel played out the way it did due to the authority of the pigs and their mindset of all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Character breakdown. Old Major was a wise and convincing pig. Old Major motivates the animals to begin the rebellion through his use of rhetorical devices, appeal to emotions, and general persuasive manner. Old Major is based on Karl Marx. Snowball was a more vicious pig than Napoleon, quicker in speech and more inventive, but was not considered to have the same depth of character. He seems to win the loyalty of the other animals and cement his power. Snowball is based on Leon Trotsky. Napoleon is a pig who emerges as the leader of Animal Farm after the rebellion. Napoleon uses military force, his 9 loyal attack dogs, to intimidate the other animals and consolidate his power. Finally, Mr. Jones is the original owner of Manor Farm. The animals overthrow him early in the novel. There are many failed attempts of him trying to win back the farm throughout the novel. Mr. Jones is based on Tsar Nicholas II.
George Orwell was born on the 25th of June, 1903 in England. At a young age, he was sent to boarding school. In 1911, he went to St. Cyprian's in the coastal town of Eastbourne, where he got his first taste of England's class system. On a partial scholarship, Orwell finished school, joined the police force. However, 5 years later, he left to become a writer. He wrote his first book in 1933 and took the name George Orwell shortly after. He was a man of strong opinions who addressed some of the major political movements of his time, including imperialism, fascism, and communism. The purpose of writing the book Animal Farm was to expose the seriousness of the dangers posed by police and ideas being developed by the governments. George Orwell wrote his book during the war. Animal Farm was one of the most famous books of the 20th century.
Animal Farm is an example of a political satire, a literary form which ridicules and criticizes political actions. The novel incorporates a critical attitude with humor for the purpose of mocking or ridiculing and improving man's political behavior and institutions. Through this, Orwell conveys a negative perspective on the characters, as if laughing at them to make them seem ridiculous or foolish. As well as this, Orwell draws on the techniques of irony, sarcasm, wit, and humor to create a more playful rather than harmful text, which also mocks human ignorance and are willing to trust people to do the right thing and not question them, which eventually results in them gaining more and more power over society. In order to create a good satire, Orwell used some basic techniques such as exaggeration, parody, ridicule, and reversal. Through exaggeration, he represented key events in a way where its faults became apparent, whilst parody to intimidate the techniques and style of the animals, which essentially represented human figures. As well as this, ridicule and reversal was used in order to mock and humiliate and present the opposite of normal order.
Animal Farm is also an example of allegory. The allegory is a narrative that uses literary devices to unveil hidden meanings. There are 2 forms of allegories, one of which has 2 meanings. There is the literal meaning of the pigs being selfish and cunning and eventually taking full control of the farm, and the symbolic meaning of the events of the Russian Revolution. The animals drive out the humans in an attempt to run their own society. It represents the Russian Revolution and the totalitarian rule of Stalin. It also reflects other totalitarianism despotic rules in the mid-20th century. The other form is an extended metaphor. Each of the animals in the novel correspond to a significant figure in the time of their revolution. Their actions, beliefs, and role in